For a while now on TikTok, we have been bombarded with this idea that you, my friend, are poor as shit. And you should feel bad about that. With grown men telling young impressionable kids that if they aren't making millions of dollars, then they're broke. And it's completely their fault. With random people showing their huge amount of wealth, bragging and normalizing having expensive things, and podcasters selling you this idea that no woman will ever want you unless you are making at least 6 figures a year. Effectively trying to tell you that you don't deserve love unless you have a massive amount of money, that you don't deserve happiness unless you are rich. And I think it's all bullshit, to be absolutely honest with you. It really is, and I'd really like to talk to you about that. Now, I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff I've mentioned in the intro, like the Andrew Tate cult telling young impressionable kids pretty much straight out of college that they're broke, and sharing brilliant ideas like this one.
If you're broke, if you're not a millionaire, the last thing you should be doing with your time is cooking. I can't think of a lower ROI activity than walking to the fridge, getting out some ingredients. Ooh, an onion. You're broke! You're fucking poor!
Which is a brilliant idea. I mean, it helps us to understand that everything you do, you should consider from the perspective of return on investment. And if it doesn't have a positive effect on your bank account, then you just shouldn't do it. It's that simple. And of course, the obvious thing to do would be to disown your children, to get rid of your dog, and to never talk to your parents, because those things, they just don't have the right ROI. And then you can finally sit down and successfully think about what a fucking sad way to live that would be. I mean, honestly, it just sounds so depressing. I mean, imagine refusing to do any hobbies, or playing video games, or spending time with your friends, or going for a walk with your dog because it doesn't have the right ROI. I mean, it's just crazy. But on the other hand, you get money. Lots of it, apparently. And having a massive amount of money is something completely normal on TikTok. With many people taking out the rent money just to brag and show us how rich they are. Or just straight up giving it out to everyone or throwing it in the sea because they just have so goddamn much of it. And then you also be made aware of just how incredibly easy it is to make that kind of money.
I made like $2,000 in 10 seconds while on the phone with my dad. Just trading stocks in my dorm room in college. And I buy like $5,000 or $6,000 of put options that expire that day that are right out like one. It just dumps right there, like 10 seconds right before close.
Oh, you didn't make $2,000 in 10 seconds while farting and eating fish? That's tough. I guess you're just not the hustler that I am. Man, making money is easy. When you're pretending. And pretending to be a college student that carelessly put $6,000 into a slot machine while talking with someone on the phone just before the establishment closes is clearly something to be admired. And there are geniuses that will just outright tell you that anything resembling a normal income is just not enough.
10K a day. What is that? 300K a month. What is that? 3 million a year. 10 years, that's 30 million. 40%. Taxes. What are you left with?
It's not enough.
What are you left with? Okay, let's say you're left with 20. Living expenses, you're left with 15. You just worked 10 years and you have 15 million in the bank. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it ain't a lot of money because you can spend it really fast.
It's just not enough. And if you are making anywhere around $3.5 million and are somewhere in between 0.1 and 0.01 of the richest Americans, then now you know it's just not good enough. And just having about $20 million to your name, that is just straight up embarrassing.
But he said once you have $20 million, like you can have everything. Unless you want to buy a jet or a yacht, like you're set. But for me, I'm like, I'd burn through 20 million and like...
Dude, I could spend 20 million before you could say 20 million. Like,
and I even think like 100 million is not a lot.
I mean, you can't even buy a jet for that. Something that we clearly all want. But the worst thing is, that just makes it so much worse, is that apparently no one will ever love you until you have that kind of money.
How much did your husband make?
My husband?
Yeah.
I'm 20.
Your 50K is not enough, so how much?
At least $1 million a year.
Okay,
that's okay. You gotta be a little bit more realistic. I'm being realistic as fuck.
And that totally reasonable expectation is something that we can see in so many other places.
How much money does a guy need to make in order to be with you?
Probably 6 figures. Same.
6 figures. It seems to be the magical, mythical number that, according to TikTok, all women want. Without that, you're not even getting close to a woman. And it is kind of fucked up that they're trying to make women seem as the gold diggers, especially when it's just simply not true. But coming back to the topic itself, there is one more really important information to share. That if you aren't rich, and of course you should be, then it's entirely your fault.
A lot of you guys over the last 2 years, if you did not get rich over the last 2 years, you fucked up. You need to be asking yourself, what did I do that caused me to stay poor?
Come on, I mean, what did you do? Did you have children or maybe different priorities in life? It's just not good enough. But that mindset is really important because they combine it with an idea that with a little bit of grinding, you too can escape the matrix and achieve all of your dreams.
Here are 4 signs you are slowly escaping the matrix without even realizing it. 1. You don't find video games entertaining anymore. 2. You're constantly stressing out because you're not successful yet. 3. You're always exhausted, even when you get enough sleep. 4. You're obsessed with becoming rich, but don't know where to start.
I mean, what a wonderful way to live, in anxiety, exhaustion, and insecurity. And these people are serious. They think being exhausted while getting a good night's sleep or not enjoying your hobbies anymore and feeling lost is something normal, it's something good. Because to me, this sounds like depression. Somehow, it gets even worse.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives. In American history, in Egyptian history, in the rest of the world that had slaves, which is most of the world at some given point. I think, like, if they can do it, so can I.
Which, of course, is a perfectly reasonable thing to say. I mean, if slaves work like this, being beaten into submission, then so can I. And so should you. Unless you don't want to be rich. Do you? But all of this, it comes down to a very simple idea. That with a little bit of creativity, some hard work and dedication, you too can start your own dropshipping company or your OnlyFans empire that the world has not seen before.
There's only one of 3 reasons that anyone on this planet would ever be poor. You're either lazy, you're arrogant, or stupid.
What? But anyway, why would they be doing this? Why would they be trying to tap into insecurities of young men and women? And there's a beautiful quote that fits here quite well. During a gold rush, sell shovels. And there seems to be a gold rush. A massive community of people, willing to do anything to make as much money with as little effort as they possibly can. And these guys, they're here to help. But instead of helping you find gold, they're effectively just making you feel like shit until you are insecure enough to buy whatever it is they're selling.
Okay, a lot of you guys stayed poor because you didn't have access to the right network, because you didn't have access to the right people, because you didn't have access to the right information.
The right information. I think that's pretty much the keyword here. Because you see, every single person I've shown in this video so far is either selling a course or some form of an equivalent. But they are effectively preying on insecurities and dreams of young people to funnel money out of their pocket into their own. And I really would like to be naive enough to think that it's not intended to be this way, that there aren't grown men and women sitting down and thinking to themselves, what can I do to make money from making kids feel like shit? How do I tap into hope of poor people to take any remaining money that they might have in exchange for a little bit of hope? And whether it's intended or not, it's kind of exactly what they're doing, trying to force you into believing that life is just about money. And if you just know the secrets that we do, you could also be rich. I mean, anyone can. But here's the greatest secret, and I will let you in on this. It's all bullshit.